why is morality, what's the purpose, and what makes it objective? Well, descriptively, its purpose is sexual reproduction. Basically, it makes us more effective at living. That's why it happened. But I would say, though, that we've evolved to a point with our intellect that we can make more of it if we choose. Because we all recognize that we all don't want to be harmed, we all want to thrive, we all want to live satisfying lives. We can choose to say, look, our emotions and our intuitions got us this far, over 100,000 years of evolution, that was great, but you know what? We don't have to do things by force the way we did in the past. So I think the wonderful thing about the concept of morality is that we're at a point, I think, where we have the ability to recognize we can actually tweak it. The way, you know, morality used to belong, or actually all disciplines belonged originally to philosophers, right? Aristotle said, I wonder how chickens develop in an egg. And then so he's cracked open eggs every day and watched the development. And then eventually there was a whole, you know, discipline of biology. And it was handed out of the philosopher's hands into the biologist's hands. Morality is now going through that. Morality has been in the discipline of philosophy until now, where we have technology and we have new methods of bringing data in. And as a result, like with medicine, we can actually steer it in the direction we want to.
Ariano, why do we in Western society think God embodies the highest ideal of our own value system today and not of another culture or historical era?
Well, I think that's rather presuppositional, and maybe the question assumes that it is presuppositional in the West. But I can't say I share this presupposition, so it's a little difficult to answer. In fact, as I look across the cultures of the world, I mean, it's difficult for me to say that we have all the right answers. I don't share in this view, so I find it really difficult to formulate an answer. Western culture, why is it the highest ideals? I'm afraid I can't do much with that, since I don't base my moral view on that which the West is currently considering to be the very height of our moral progress.
For Michael. Much of the brain analysis discussion still referred to an unidentified or unconscious aspect. How does this lead to a godless morality outcome when it could easily be interpreted as God?
That's actually a good question. I don't have a hammer and the nail in the coffin answer to that. I suppose you could say that this alleged unconscious capacity that hasn't been quite described yet, or recognized yet, is God. But I think my criticism with that assumption is that it doesn't make sense to me to assume that it is. Hauser, for example, is the guy who argues for it the most. I mean, I think, as far as I know, Josh Green, the guy who really does most of the fMRI stuff, he's not even convinced that this third unconscious capacity even exists. Hauser's the one saying that he thinks it does. But the point, what I would suggest to someone who says, well, maybe it's God, if we look at the science, the way Hauser's looking at it, well, I don't know what it is, so I'm not gonna suggest something until I have some evidence to give me something to go on. And from my point of view, I don't see anything to go on to say that it's God.
Okay. If God's morality exists by virtue of his Trinity, then it seems to suggest that you claim God is moral because you're defining him as a social being. That being said, how can morality develop as a social construct in God, but not in humans?
Well, I would not argue that morality developed in God. The very concept of God carries along with it, at least in this case, the concept of eternality. And again, I can't agree with the presupposition in this question. Let me look it over for a second. how can morality develop as a social construct in God but not in humans? Well, again, there's absolutely no denying that we naturally evolve to exhibit certain beneficial behaviors. There's no argument there. The argument was, how do I distinguish between one and the other? We may very well be damaging humanity by caring for the sick and the poor, right? I mean, how do we know? We need to be able to distinguish. When we look at the human landscape and the animal landscape, there's all these behavioral options, and how do we know how to choose between them? Some may choose this, some may that. Some may only care about their in-group and think that a good thing is to constantly war against others. And so again, I come back to the point that there's something else behind it all, urging us to choose the one beneficial option over the other.
Question for Michael. If we could one day treat immorality like any other neurological disease, would this prove naturalistic morality? And would it be ethical to treat these people?
That's putting me on the spot. Yes, I do think it would, in my opinion, that would be proof. I don't want to sidestep the question, but if you think of the complexity, you know, when people, generally when philosophers try to assess the culpability, should this person be held responsible for that action? You know, did he mean for that outcome to occur, or she mean for that outcome to occur, and therefore should justice be administered? They caution us to always keep in mind that there are so many different factors that we can't know that contribute. So for example, just make a quick example, let's say I despised the taste of alcohol. Okay, I just couldn't stand it, so therefore I never drank it. And someone else was born into a family where the father and mother were both alcoholics from the time they were children. Well, is it fair for me to say, huh, you alcoholic, how, you know, you're terrible. Well, no, because there are factors that are beyond his control and factors that are beyond my control, which in this particular case put me at an advantage. So to say that that we'll be able to neurologically diagnose immorality, I don't think is realistic. So I think I can cheat and sneak away from the question by saying that I think that's the reality. I don't think we ever will. I don't think there's a magic pill. And as to whether we should be forcing people, if we could, so hypothetically if we could, no, I don't think we should be forcing people, because in my opinion, you're harming a person when you force them to do anything. I would say the rare exception would be in the case where, you know, by the principle of doctrine of double effect, I'm permitted to defend myself. So if you're a psychopath, I may want you to take pills, but unless you're threatening my life or, you know, harming me, then well, you know, whether you take pills is your business.
In the future, if the status of the brain could be states of the brain, the states of the brain could be scanned to reveal the mind's contents, how would this inform the speaker's views?
In the year 2000. Well, it being speculative as it is, I would just propose a very simple answer, which is that I think that there's still something about our brains being hardware and perhaps our minds being software. And I think about the movie, The True Story, It's a Beautiful Mind, where his brain kept on telling him that these people really existed, and yet his mind was finally able to figure out that because they did not age, they were not real. So his hardware was malfunctioning, but his software got him the right answer.